All right, welcome back to another podcast episode. Today is episode 23, I believe, of the Fan Connection podcast. Honestly, I'm losing track at this point. Having too good of a time. Don't mind me, guys. I'm wearing my beautiful St. Paddy's Day material. As an Irish boy, I wouldn't be representing my culture properly if I wasn't wearing a hat that says "Got Beer?" question mark in the
Are you
shape.
actually a Irish boy?
Yeah.
Oh
I don't
wow.
want to say my last
Hmm.
name on stream.
No, it's
But
fine. But well, happy St. Patrick's Day, man.
thank you. Thank you. I am Irish, though. I am definitely Irish. If you were to hear my last name, you would
I
know
would
I'm Irish right
understand.
away.
All right.
Liv says, I have a feeling your mom had something to do with this outfit. The shirt, no. The hat, absolutely. Uh, she had a bag full. My mom loves St. Patrick's Day, by the way. So she had a hat full of stuff. I'm sorry, a bag full of stuff. So just hand me a bunch of hats. I'm like, okay, I can only wear one hat. So I took the giant got beer hat that extends well beyond 2 head lengths of my head. So for those of you listening after the fact, you can't see what I'm wearing. It's just a giant hat in the shape of a beer stein with a gold handlebar saying "Got beer?" question mark in all caps, and the yellow, I guess, sun protect. I don't know what you'd call this, but like the
The
cap part of
brim?
it, the rim. Thank you. The rim is essentially blocking me from seeing anything above me. So it's interesting. My perception's a little off right now, so I'll do my best today. But anyway, enough about St. Patrick's Day. Enough about me. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. The first two things we want to talk about are the big trades that happened over yesterday night, I guess you can say. The first one I want to talk about is Cal Jarnkrok. Just get it out of the way because I do want to talk about Ben Chiarot, and I'll probably go on a tangent. So let's talk about Cal Jarnkrok first. So Cal Jarnkrok traded to the Calgary Flames for what, Punch? What was the deal there?
Florida's second,
Yeah,
Calgary's third, and a seventh. So
yeah,
essentially, that's a fine trade because Calgary didn't give up a crazy amount. Um, like the second, granted, we could like any team would love an extra second, but they gave up Florida's second, the one that they got in the Sam Bennett trade, and then they gave up a third and a seventh, and like that's a good trade. You know,
Mhm.
he's a Calle Jarnkrok's great depth piece, and it's not like next year. This upcoming draft is really deep, so they didn't give up all 3 picks in this draft. They gave up one for next year, 2023, and then they gave up their seventh in 2024.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I think that was a pretty fair trade. They're essentially getting a third line center, is what it sounds like from what I'm hearing from Elliot Friedman and all the insiders. It seems like he's going to slot in on their third line to really make an identity line for Daryl Sutter. He likes having an identity on his third lines, like just a line that's annoying to play against, like for lack of a better word, a pain in the ass. So that's what he's trying to build there with Cal Jarnkrok on that third line, and I think honestly that's a good move. Like you didn't give up too much to get him, and you can't really go wrong. Berta, what do you think of the deal?
I think it's yeah, it's a fair deal both ways. It's cool that they retain salary on him. I mean, like that's what you're paying for, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
that was the seventh
So
round pick, I think.
the seventh round pick.
Yeah,
What
that's
do you
what I
mean?
heard. That's the seventh round pick was sweetener to retain salary, I
Oh yeah,
think.
yeah. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what you want, right? Like you just it's
Mhm.
50% too, so that's humongous. And anytime you can get that out of a deal, that's just an added asset basically, right? Like a non-player asset, you know, because you can save money there and just use it somewhere else that's better utilized, or you can just squeeze in whatever play you want under the restricted cap space that you have right now, right? So, um, I think it's a good deal for both teams.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. And it gives Calgary more depth, which they already had pretty solid depth on offense, but it adds some more depth to their forward core. Calle Jarnkrok's known for being like very consistent with his points. He'll get you. I think like in his last 6 seasons or 5 seasons, without missing a beat, he always gets between 10 and 16 goals and between I think 26 and 32 points. Like he's always right there. in that range of points. So you know you're getting a consistent player. He's on pace for his best season of his career this year. So they're buying high on a rental. So that's kind of what you want to do. If you're doing a rental, you don't want to buy low. You want to buy high. That's generally how it works, because you want the best version of that player coming into your team. You want him coming in confident. You want him coming in happy. You don't want to have to do a rental for a player that you have to make them happy once they get here. You want them to come in happy and be ready to go with your team off the bat. And I think that's what Calgary does. A smart move by Brad Treliving here. And honestly, if you look at Jarnkrok, he's going to fit right in. Him, Jacob Markstrom, and I believe it was Elias Lindholm. They're all from the same town. And him and Elias Lindholm are actually cousins. So they all train together in the summer. He's cousins with Elias Lindholm. He should fit right into that locker room. And I know Daryl Sutter likes having close locker rooms and guys that could get along. So that's a big bonus. Like having a guy who can come in and already know some players on the team, and especially two of the superstars, that's something that you really like for Jarnkrok. All right, let's move on to the Ben Chiarot trade. I already see Jay God in chat saying the Habs robbed Florida, and you know what? I did say it was a decently fair return. I think Ben Chiarot gets a little underrated because he plays so many minutes in Montreal. You know, I saw Jay Fresh tweeted out his player card, and Ben Chiarot had a WAR of 0. So win above replacement percentage of 0%, which essentially means he's one of the worst players in the NHL. And I remember we were bashing Ristolainen for having 1%. Ben Chiarot has even less than Ristolainen. But here's the difference. Okay, Ben Chiarot plays the number 1 unit on a terrible Montreal Canadiens team this year. He was expected to do way too much, and especially under Ducharme. But ever since Martin St. Louis took over the coaching staff, Ben Chiarot was on a 60-point pace, which obviously is inflated because of a new coach. But he was scoring game-winning overtime goals. He's setting up players. He's been on the power play. He's been getting good points. So he was on a 60-point pace. So if you're Florida, you're buying high once again on Ben Chiarot because he's coming in confident. He's on his best offensive pace in a long time. He was playing big time minutes in Montreal, so he's already warmed up. You know, he's ready to go, and he's just coming off a Stanley Cup final appearance. So he's got that grit. He knows how to win a playoff round. He knows how to win 3, to be exact, in 1 year. So he knows what he's doing. And you're getting a guy who's very well liked. Everybody who's ever talked to him in the locker room, everybody who's ever dealt with him has always come across from Ben Chiarot as he's a nice guy. He's got an interesting personality. Like he's got a personality to him, but like everyone really likes him. He's super friendly, and no one's ever really had any issues with him in the locker room. So, yeah, Florida, you're getting a great player. Montreal, great job on the return. Congratulations to Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon getting a first-round pick unprotected for next year's draft. So let's say Florida gets a bunch of injuries, they fall off a cliff, and they miss the playoffs. Well, guess what? We have a lottery pick, baby, unprotected. Also, they get I believe it was a first, a fourth, and a prospect who's a former third. So let's just say a first, a third, and a fourth. And this prospect's on a decent pace. He's pretty well scouted, pretty well liked by scouts in the NCAA. So honestly, a win for Montreal. Florida, if you win a few rounds, can't go wrong with that trade either. What do you guys think?
I think that they got fleeced, man. I think Florida got fleeced, to be honest.
I'm being too generous?
What's that?
You're being a little bit generous here?
You're being a little bit too generous.
I like Ben Chiarot. I'm going to miss him, man. I enjoyed his stay in Montreal. He was a good guy. Handsome fella as well. But, yeah, I like Ben Chiarot, man.
Handsome fella definitely adds to it for sure, but
definitely adds to it.
Well, I think I saw a report saying that they're basically like preparing for like bully hockey, right? Like that's what they're preparing for.
Well, they got Gudas already.
Yeah,
exactly, right? So I mean, they're gonna be good in that sense. We'll see if he resigns there. I mean, I don't know if he's going to, but it is an awfully lot to give up just because now they don't have firsts in back-to-back years. 3 years or 2 years, I don't know, but this is now another first they won't have. They don't have one this year for sure. And yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the left-hand defenseman I thought they needed, because I thought they needed a better top 4 defenseman that would play. Like I know Chiarot will play better under proper minutes, right? Like he'll play under Ekblad for sure, and
he won't be on the first unit.
Yeah, right. So That's good for him, and hopefully he puts up better defensive numbers. But they actually need some really solid defense to get through the playoffs, right? Like I was watching their game just against the Sharks. That was the last game they played. And the commentators of Florida were saying, like, yeah, like they are so good offensively all the time, right? They always have the puck, but the main thing is like, are they going to be good enough defensively in the playoffs? And if I don't watch the Panthers that much, but if they're saying that, the commentators who commentate every single game, it's a concern, right? And I just don't know if Chiarot's going to be the guy that puts them over the edge. I do get the idea though, and saying like, yeah, like playoffs, the rule book kind of goes,
Out the window,
goes out.
baby.
Yeah, it goes out the window,
He'll
right?
still take penalties, but he won't get
yeah,
penalized as much for what he does. Because the volume
Right,
of stuff
right.
he does will go way up, but the amount of penalties he gets will only go slightly up. You get what I'm saying? It's a positive
yeah.
trade-off right there.
I'm curious to see what happens. Let's just leave it at that. Right now, I think they got fleeced, but who knows, right? Who knows? So maybe it helps him win a cup. Maybe he scores the game-winning goal.
He's won a few games in overtime this year.
Yeah,
And just one more thing before Ponch, you throw your opinion in here as well. Just one more thing to mention is Ben Chiarot can play both sides. He did that down the stretch, and he actually looked pretty good on the right side. Him and Romanov were good together. And another thing as well on the Habs Inside Out podcast, shout out to them. I was listening to them, and Stu Cowan, I think it was, or Rick Green, they're saying that Ben Chiarot's the type of guy, when the forwards from the other team step on the ice and they look up and they see him on the ice, they're like, oh shit, not him again. Because people hate playing against Ben Chiarot. Look at Matthews last year. He was freaking racked. Matthews, yeah, he can smile all he wants. He still lost. And you had one goal because Ben Chiarot and Shea Weber were throwing you around and you weren't standing up for yourself. Now, Matthews this year has shown that he's willing to stand up for himself, so it's a different story. But last year he didn't, and guys like Ben Chiarot were able to throw him around, and teams around the league noticed that because Ben Chiarot threw Matthews off his game. Let's be honest. He did, and it worked. So teams see that. Yeah, maybe his goal differential's not amazing or his penalty minutes aren't great, but he throws the star players off their games, and that's something you have to consider too. If you throw a star player off his game, that affects the series regardless of what the advanced analytics tell you, because advanced analytics aren't going to read into someone's mind and their perspective on how they're playing, right? They're just going to see the numbers. You're not going to see the psychology behind it too. So that's just one more thing to consider, Ponch. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with the Ben Chiarot trade. I think it made sense. I think Florida was gonna go in on a defenseman, whether it be Lindholm, Chiarot, Giordano, or Klingberg, and I'm happy to see that they got somebody to help support their defense. And Florida's not weak in any source, but even playing against the Sharks, I saw that. I don't know why, but Florida's ranked number 1 in goals for, and for some reason they had trouble scoring, and I don't know if it was because of the forwards. They were just playing in a rut, or they just couldn't find momentum. But I think adding somebody to their defense is gonna definitely kind of separate them from the mid elite teams to like top elite teams. And I think now's the time to do so, because you're number 1 in the Atlantic.
Yeah, Atlantic.
You're number 1 in the Atlantic, and you can't just coast through the Atlantic. You have to be trying to get better, and they got Ben Chiarot on a deal, and to sacrifice a little bit of their future just makes sense now. Hopefully, the problem is not this year, but next year. So if Aaron Ekblad gets injured, if Sasha Barkov doesn't have the same year that he has, that first rounder might turn into
Lottery.
1, 2, 3. It's happened before. It happened to San Jose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a couple of years ago, where should have been Shark Timmy Stützle. This would have had Stützle on the back.
Although I don't know. I haven't really watched a lot of Sens games, but has he been playing well? It's hard to tell.
I don't know, but he's also
On a
on
bad team.
on a bad team.
I think I've seen him play. Like, I mean, he does look like he'll be a good player, right? Like he did have some, like every game I've seen him play, or most games I've seen him play, he is a solid guy. And I don't know how long his development is gonna be till he turns into an actual star, but I can see the blueprints there. Like I can see like the work being made.
Right.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not going to be NHL stars right off the bat. That's not usually how it goes. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
yeah.
Speaking of Florida and Ponch, I want your opinion here first because I kind of cut you off last time. But speaking of Florida, they moved Vatrano out. He has a $2.1 million cap hit for a 4th round pick to New York Rangers. No salary retained. They bring in Ben Chiarot on half salary, so theoretically they gain about I think it was like 400 to 500K after the Ben Chiarot trade because Ben Chiarot at half salary is less than the 2.1 that Vatrano was making. So what do you think? Tippet's out in the AHL. They benched him. And they move out Vatrano's contract. Yeah, they acquire Chiarot, but they still technically gain some cap space. Are they in on Claude Giroux?
What's Giroux making? 7?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
I'll do a quick Google.
We'll have to check his cap space, but it's definitely up there. So like they're trying their best to free up cap space.
You guys.
On you have to check Cap Friendly. They're saviors when it comes to this kind of stuff.
So Claude Giroux is making $8 million this year.
Jesus.
So
they'll make it work somehow, man.
I don't. So I guess they are in the hunt, but then will Florida be willing to give up more assets? Because what they could do, and what most teams might do, is find a third team to take on salary. So your Arizonas, your Buffaloes, your San Jose's. They could potentially get them to take on a third, but you've already given up a first for next year. You've given up, what, a second for the year after?
Probably, yeah.
No.
What picks does Florida have left? What does Florida have they could offer for Claude Giroux? Like, the only guys they have is Tippet. Yeah. I mean, I don't think they want to trade Anton Lundell because he's having a really good season, and he's got a big future, and he's on a very cheap contract for the next year or two, I think. So, what do you give up to get Claude Giroux? Because the starting point has to be a 1st round pick or a grade A prospect, but they already don't have their pick this year and next year. So
the picks they don't have, actually, so they don't have the 1st this year, 2nd next year, 1st next year. They have a 1st in 2024. They don't have a 2nd in 2024. So they're missing. So basically, in the next 3 years, they have 2 picks in the first 2 rounds.
That's not good.
Yeah.
So,
Jinx.
I have to be quiet for the rest of the stream now until someone says my name.
We're not doing that.
Oh,
we have no podcast.
I can't stay silent. There's so many deals happening. So Punch. So what do you think they do then? Because if they don't have the assets to get Giroux, then isn't it technically feasibly impossible for Florida to be in on Giroux? So who else in the rumor mill could they be in on that would be less expensive in terms of the assets they need to give up? Because they did free up cap space, so there's clearly something they're doing here that could be something more than just Ben Chiarot. Who else could they be in on if they don't have the assets for Giroux?
I just go Hertl. It could have been Hertl.
We'll talk about
that in a second.
Wasn't his signing before the Chiarot trade, though?
I think it was, like, they were announced pretty close.
I think the Chiarot trade was first. Hertl trade was last night. Hertl signing was last night.
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But, I'd go Raquel.
I don't think Raquel's on the trade block, though. I haven't heard his name anywhere.
He's expiring as a UFA. And they're not. It doesn't sound like they're close to extensions.
I'd even be fine with like a Jakob Silfverberg. Like, just get somebody expensive for your third and fourth. It is, but do you think the Ducks see a future with Jakob Silfverberg?
It's not. I think they'd be happy to move Silfverberg, but I don't think Florida it's feasible because he's not expiring. He has a few years left. I thought at a pretty substantial cap hit. Doesn't he? And Florida has a lot of guys expiring right now. They don't have any money next year. They have $10 million in dead cap coming on the books next year because Keith Yandle's contract. I don't know Luongo's is off, but I think they have $10 million in dead cap next year.
That's
Right.
true.
Well,
So
I was just looking at some prospects they have. I know
Mhm.
Heponiemi is an expiring one as of 2022, so they could he's RFA. So that could be a chip. Tippet could be a chip. Denisenko could also be a chip they throw in. And even Justin Sorta, if he's signed for a bit. I don't know what they're gonna think of him, but he's also on an ELC. So these are just prospects they could throw into
Mhm.
one of these trades. But that being said, like I just agree with you guys, as in like I don't see them going for a major piece anymore. Like
Is
I think Chiarot's the
yeah.
biggest thing they're gonna get.
I
You
think
think
the
so?
market's just so small at this point
Yeah.
Everyone was
because
saying it was a buyer's market.
it is, but for
What can they give
Florida,
up?
there's
Yeah.
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me check free agents for this.
I know there's a decent amount of free agents this year, but it just depends on how many people sign. Like Hertl's off the market. Gaudreau is like probably the biggest chip. And then
They're definitely keeping him though.
yeah, but then what do they do with to Chuck, right? So
Yeah,
we're gonna have to see. There's gonna be some moves around in Calgary for sure.
they
Yeah, I
they'll
don't see them
finesse the cap.
trading them though right now. Like I think they're just gonna wait to
No,
try to
no,
move off cap during the draft, right?
right,
And then maybe sign
But
Gaudreau
then
after.
you could go in on Alexander Radulov,
true.
our boy Andrew
Yeah.
Ladd.
And Spider-Man from Naruto is throwing this in here. St. Louis might be in on Claude Giroux as well. So keep that in mind. Like St. Louis still has a lot
Mhm.
of assets left, don't they?
Yeah, no, St. Louis should be able to be a big player on this deadline for sure.
Yeah. Well, you could even go in on Max Domi too. I wouldn't. Domi's at a 5. He's expiring. If you can get Columbus to take on, because Columbus would more than happy take on a little bit of salary
Well,
because
speaking of
even
Max Domi, um,
yeah.
like per NHL discussion, they were saying the teams that are interested in Domi is Colorado,
Yep.
Boston, and Washington. So those are which team do you think fits best there? I personally think if Colorado gets Domi, that's a great depth piece for like that is a really good trade for them.
Honestly,
I
Like
don't.
Boston.
I don't see how you play Domi outside the top 6 and he's still effective.
What's that? Sorry.
I don't see how anybody plays Domi outside their top 6 and he's still effective. That's the problem with Domi.
Mhm.
Like the only way I can see Domi working is if a team who had a good duo. So for example, before Bunting, let's say they did Domi Matthews Marner or Domi Matthews Nylander, like that would be a good fit for Domi because he'd be a good complementary piece.
Mhm.
But I don't see how Domi fits in a bottom 6 role. I just don't because he doesn't play that style. He's too finesse, right?
Yeah.
I don't see how he'd
Well,
work.
that's why I'd say Boston. I think Boston really would like Max Domi, just
To put with
because
Hall,
I put him with Hall.
Well,
you
that'd
put
be
him
a good.
center.
Yeah, that
Because
could be a fit.
Hall with
yeah,
him
because
with Hall and Smith.
I think Nick Foligno. No disrespect for Nick Foligno, but they, I think he'd be better at their third line center rather than their second.
I thought it was Charlie Coyle, their second line center.
Oh, does Foligno play wing?
Let me check for you guys.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's Coyle second line right now. I think I could be wrong. But
Sorry, no 6 second line. Coyle is third, and Lazar is fourth.
Thomas Nosek's their second line center.
Yeah, Holla is their
So
first.
All right, go.
Well, Bergeron's out, right? So
So
yeah,
Hall is their second line center. Yeah, I'd go for Domi then, or
Yeah.
Giroux, or go for Giroux if you're Boston. Why not?
but I think
Eastern
Domi
Conference.
has.
He replaces
Yeah.
Krejci.
Yeah.
I think you could sign Domi on a longer term though.
You think?
They'd actually look to sign him after because Domi's not a bad player. He's just Columbus had a rough year last year,
Mm-hmm.
and right now he's turning it around. He's not, but he's kind of getting outshined by Patrick Laine, and it's fine because it's Patrick Laine. But I think his style fits Boston. it fits Boston a little bit more than it fit Columbus,
Right.
because Boston does play that grinding game. And yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't work with. He could fit on. I wouldn't break up the perfection line, but Hall, Domi, and then DeBrusque, or I don't really know who's injured on their entire squad, but I could see
know
them.
Bergeron's out.
It's Bergeron, and it is Vakanen. Who in the world?
Vakanainen, Urho Vakanainen. I know that
Vakanainen.
guy.
Yeah,
Low
And
top 4
Zaboral.
defensive prospect in NHL 22, baby. I don't know
Nice.
why I know
yeah.
that.
So
but
Domi could definitely bring something to
yeah,
Boston.
and his flair does fit for Boston. Like Domi, if you're gonna acquire him, you have to be a big market team because that's where he thrives. Now, hear me out. So everybody in chat, thank you, BB Bagel, by the way, for the comment on my St. Patty's attire. I appreciate it. Got to represent the Irish. But hear me out, Leafs fans, before you rage at me. I think Domi would be an amazing fit for the Leafs top 6. I just think that he'd be a better fit than Alex Kerfoot. I'm not a fan of Kerfoot's game in the top 6. I'd like him as your third line center. Obviously, keep Bunting in your top 6 as well. So maybe I'd honestly split up Matthews and Marner, because Marner makes Tavares so much better, whereas Nylander doesn't. Nylander doesn't complement Matthews. It doesn't complement Tavares to me. So I'd run Domi, Matthews, Nylander, because Domi will still go in the corners. He's still physical. He's upbeat, and he plays a fast game, and that's something that Matthews would really strive with. And he's actually an underrated playmaker. Domi's a very good playmaker, and has a decent shot. So you just have to respect his ability to score. And then you put below Bunting, Tavares, Marner. That was a very good line in the Dallas game. They absolutely dominated. I think the shot totals were like 23-7 or 30-7 or something. No, it was a 23 or something like that to 7 or to 4. No, it was 23-4, I think, in the Toronto game against Dallas when the Tavares line was on. So this is all in good fun, but I think that'd be sick. Domi thrives in big-time markets. He played amazing in Montreal until Claude Julien decided that he didn't like Domi's game anymore. But Domi had that 72-point season in Montreal one year when he was playing big minutes there. And then I think if you slot him in the top 6 in Toronto, it's not the Galchenyuk experiment again. It's not an experiment. We know Domi can play well. We know he's skilled. We literally saw him take the net off with a wrist shot. He basically just juggles the puck, just slaps a shot at the net, and he just sends the net flying. So clearly he's got a heck of a shot on him too. So, and his dad played in Toronto, and he thrives under pressure like that. I think Domi's a big-time player. Toronto, I think he'd be a great fit. I know you're not going to do it. I know Dubas wouldn't do it. But I think you'd be happily surprised with Domi in Toronto. I just think that would be amazing. And if it happens, heard it here first. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone clip it? No.
Someone clip that? Clip it? No, just clip it.
Clip it.
It's not worth clipping
Alright.
because no one's going to see it, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Max Domi will see it.
Yo, if
Yeah,
Max
Max
Domi
Domi.
sees this and likes it, I mean, I'll be your cheerleader, man. I don't mind. I'll gas you up. I loved him in Montreal. It was so fun. Honestly, I think if St. Louis was the coach when he was here, I think he'd be still kicking it at around a 70-point pace. I guarantee you. Because they tried to turn him into a defensive forward, which he's not. So,
Mr.
Yeah.
Guarantee, like Canucks legend.
Okay, no. All right, anyway, moving on.
let's
So-
move on to a new topic here.
Should I do quick other trade rumors?
Before we do that, can we talk about a different topic? Actually,
Sure.
so this is
What are you
it's
thinking?
something we have to talk about for too long, but it's just big news out of Ottawa. I saw today Thomas Chabot out for this season. Season-ending
wow.
injury for Thomas Chabot. He leads the league in minutes. I know it doesn't affect a playoff team, but it still affects a Canadian team, and obviously we're all Canadians here, so at least all of us talking here on the podcast. So Big loss for Ottawa. We hope he recovers. Because honestly, whenever you see it's a broken wrist. So whenever you see a wrist injury like that, especially a broken wrist, the recovery is you don't necessarily come back the same, man. So hopefully Ottawa does the right thing, and even if he's healthy before the end of the season, just shut him down. Don't let him play. Let him heal. Let him take the time. He gets an entire off season. Doesn't have to come back semi-healthy. But what do you guys think of that? Do you think he'll come back fully healed? Like, and what kind of loss is that to Ottawa? What do you guys think of that?
I think it's tough, man. He's one of he's supposed to be one of the faces of defensemen, I think, right? Or of like this next NHL. I would say him, Heiskanen, Chabot. I would throw Quinn Hughes there. Makar, obviously. Those are like the new age NHL defensemen, and he's one of them. And you hate to see someone get injured like that, right? So, uh, especially for wrists. Like wrist is such a difficult thing that most players like. I mean, they recover from it, but you see a lot of times when those players are struggling later on. It's like, oh, is it his wrist? Because it's so hard for it to just get back to 100%, right? Like even when you're medically cleared and you're back to 100%, it's still sometimes might linger, right? And yeah, it's tough, man.
Yep, 100%. Punch, what do you think about it?
Like you're right, shut it down. Because one of the defensemen that I think of that just gets injured all the time and like
He's gonna bring up Carlson.
like, yeah, I was actually thinking of Carlson, but in the same way that Carlson came back a little too early.
Yeah.
A little bit too early, but granted though, the Sharks and the Senators weren't in the same position because Carlson or they were bound for a playoff run. Ottawa is still kind of trying to figure out who they are. So while it is a loss on the like for the Senators with team chemistry and whatnot, and Chabot not being able to develop even more, I think it's fine for the time being because they're not on a playoff run right now. They're still rebuilding and they still need more time. So it's more important that Chabot just rest as long as he need to and not try to rush it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a long-term game with injuries like that. So hopefully, honestly, for the sake of the game of hockey, I hope Chabot comes back fully healed next season. And I had him in fantasy hockey for a while. I had to drop him because time on ice is not a thing that factors into my league. So, but Thomas Chabot, man, he's a good player, and it sucks because I think if you look back at his draft class, he'd easily be in the top 10 or top 5 even, just based on how much he plays. Because I think he was drafted pretty late. Wasn't he like 16th or something? Pretty sure he was drafted late.
So. Yeah.
Yeah. So you look back on that draft. I mean, Ottawa, they took a great player. Honestly, I think anybody looking at that draft, they would have been like, damn, I should have taken Thomas Chabot earlier. He's a top 2 defenseman in the NHL, and he's only, what, like 22? Like, he's so young. Like, it's crazy. Like, you'd think he's like 26 at this point because he's been around for so long, playing so many minutes in Ottawa. Like, from the beginning of his career, he's been playing 20 plus, 23 plus minutes because right away when he stepped on the ice there, he was their best defenseman. And now it sucks he's injured, but it really makes Ottawa have to show who they have in the depth chart. It really exposes the rest of their decor and allows them to evaluate their other players. Because Thomas Chabot eats up like 26, 27 minutes a night, which is almost half a game. So it gives them a chance to really showcase the rest of their decor, gives Zaitsev a chance to prove himself. Brandstrom definitely needs a chance like this, or an opportunity like this to really thrive. So maybe they'll come out of it better next season. So at least hopefully they will. So let's move on. Bert, I'll let you take over here because there's a lot of rumors circling around the Vancouver Canucks. But what kind of rumors do you got for us?
Right, yeah. So there's a couple of people up today for the Canucks and Red Wings game, and it's Pettersson's injury, Hoglander's an injury, but then Myers. I didn't hear anything about Myers, why he's out, but you never know. Could be trade deadline related, but I haven't heard anything about him being traded yet, so I'm not too worried about that. But Garland, just yesterday I heard that it's a 50-50 chance he's going to get traded, and he's out of the lineup today, so it looks like they're gonna try and move him. That doesn't mean they're for sure gonna move him, but I think right now they're trying to avoid injury. That's what teams usually do right now. You'll probably see other teams do that with similar players as well that are that might be moved. They might just hold them out the lineup so they don't get injured in the game. And yeah, I still think if he gets traded, it's gonna be to Pittsburgh, and it'll be like a deal involving Marino, like the defenseman. And that's just someone who we've been really looking at for a while. But that being said, I'm still hearing a lot about how the Canucks are still linked to Liljegren on Toronto, so they still really want Liljegren, and I don't know if that's a Garland deal, but I mean, I would be happy because we don't have a lot of defensemen that we can look up to. Like Liljegren's still fairly young, right? I mean, he's really young, isn't he?
Like
I think he's
22, 23.
Yeah, he's young defenseman. We don't have many young defensemen that are coming up. We have Rathbone
And
and we
his
have Jeff
underlines are
Wu.
really good.
Yeah, so if we can snag him somehow, I'll be happy, man. And just another one thing, like as we were doing the podcast here, I was just going through Twitter. I guess I'm the Twitter guy, man. I think I'm the Twitter. You know how everyone has like their little like their Twitter person on the podcast that goes through whatever. I think that might be me. But I was just scrolling through some stuff, and Rick Dollywell is a very credible source as well. Was saying that the camp this week is very feeling very strong about signing here in Vancouver for JT Miller, and they're saying a comparable would be the Zibanejad 8 by 8.5. So I don't know what changed in this last week or so, or 2 weeks, but he is looking to be happy. The camp is looking to be happy here in Vancouver, and it looks like there could be a deal. But that being said, though, that just is even more evidence that he's not going to get traded this deadline. So I know he's a big chip on this market, on this free market here for trades, but I don't think he's going to be traded in this deadline.
Yeah, I mean, he was rumored for a while, but I don't know, because he's what, 28 now? Almost, is he 28 or
Miller?
29? Yeah.
I think he's 29. I'll check right now. I think he's
8-year deal.
Yeah, he's
man.
29.
8-year deal. And that would not even kick in next year. It'd kick in the year after when he's 30.
Yeah.
Dude.
It's a
I
lot.
don't sign that contract. I trade him.
Yeah.
I don't sign that contract.
Wait,
I know.
I would trade him in the offseason, though.
Yeah, no, don't trade him now. Trade him in the
Yeah.
offseason because you're going for a playoff spot. But I trade him in the offseason, do a complete roster rehaul because, dude, he's on the wrong side of the age group here. Because you sign that guy to an 8-year extension at the age of 30, he'll be 38 by the end of the deal at being paid $8.5 million for a guy. Like, yeah, honestly, I underestimated his foot speed. I will be honest with you. But guys, his legs will go. His legs will go.
His legs are not this main part of his game. Like I agree that players get worse in their 30s, but there actually has been a decent amount of players that have been doing still really good and getting better of age. And
but
I was surprised. Like okay, look at like Miller, right? Just each year since he's been here, he's gotten progressively better. And then this year he's now like 6th in points. Like he's gonna be good in that contract, I would say, until he's 33 for sure. And then after that, I don't know, right? Like that's thing.
Less than half the contract, though. You see what I'm saying?
But then what do you do? Yourself. Like, he's gonna get that though. He's gonna get term somewhere. Someone's gonna.
I don't want to be the guy to give it to him.
But what if it? But like the thing is like if you're gonna get that contract, or if you have to pay to get that contract, and you're paying to get a top end NHL player, right? And if you're looking to win a cup, what if you win a cup? I'm not the Canucks. What if the team that pays him that deal wins a cup in that time?
Well, then that's worth it then, because you got your cup and now you don't give a shit afterwards. But if you're a team that wants to be good for a long time, I think the best idea to build a team is, you want to go for cups, but you also want to be a contender for a long time. The best teams that win more cups are usually the teams that are contending for a long time, and they don't necessarily give it all up for a 1-year thing, because a 1-year thing is very risky. Very risky. It's rare that the year that you do the one-time thing is when you win, because something always goes wrong. So you should have play the odds. You want more chances at it. So obviously, I don't want to be like, you don't want to be that team's like, oh yeah, make the playoffs and hope for the best, because you're clearly not a very good team if that's your philosophy. That's what Bergevin's philosophy was. And look at Montreal for the last decade; they're mediocre as hell. They'd have 1 year where they're good and 1 year where they're bad. So ideally, you want to build a contender, but I don't know if building your team around a guy who's on the other side of 30. I don't know if that's the idea that you want to do. You want to
Yeah,
invest
typically you give
$8.5
those
million
contracts
dollars.
to like people in your mid-20s, I would say, right? Or early 20s, you give that. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say what you would do. Like ideally you want to give that contract to a 25-year-old, right? That's what I would probably do if you're giving him an 8-year or 26-year-old even, because then he'll have his contract till he's 34, right? And that's a pretty lengthy and really good value contract. But yeah, I don't know. It's just a comparable though. Like we don't know if that means the years are comparable. We don't know if that means the money is comparable. He's just saying he's more happy in Vancouver now. That's like the report. At the end of the day, I don't think they're gonna do that. Like I don't think they're gonna sign him for 8 years just because of what you're saying. And also Rutherford wants like he one of the things he said is he wants his team to be younger and he wants us to be faster. And those are the two things he said specifically a bunch of times. And signing him to 8 years would not necessarily do that.
It'd be
But
shooting
yeah,
yourself in the foot, to be honest.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
not shooting yourself in the
Okay,
foot, but it'd be the opposite of what you're saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
so speaking of 8-year contracts,
Yeah,
um,
good segue.
so well, because what they could do is, because shout out to Tomas Hertl, he's locked into San Jose for 8 more years. Um, there's two thoughts when going into signing an 8 mil contract. How long have they been with the team? Do they warrant it? And will this be better for our future? Now, JT Miller's been playing really well. And would I go for an 8? No, I'd go maybe 4x8. I think 4x8's more fair. He gets his money, and if Vancouver, it depends on Vancouver how Vancouver looks in 4 years. Pedersen, Besser, and shout out Colson. I don't know why I'm shouting him out. Or Demko. Why didn't I shout out Demko?
Or
Um,
Hughes.
or Jack Hughes' brother.
Yeah.
If they get better in 4 years, then this deal is going to look really, really good. But with an 8x8, what happens is it's either a steal or it's just absolutely terrible.
For
So
Miller?
in general.
Yeah.
So the thought is when you backload a contract like an 8x8 and make the last 3 years more expensive, is the cap's gonna go up, and it does. It generally, in recent history, it goes up. That's why the Sharks love these 8x8s. The Hertl
Overpayment.
Vlasic. I don't know about that.
Overpayment.
Just wait. I'll give you the breakdown for the Hertl contract because I really like it. But these 8x8s are really good because they look really good if the player plays well, because that 8x8 becomes, in the last 3-4 years, an 8 becomes what a 6 would be because the cap goes
Yeah.
up.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
what you can also do is front load the contract. So with Tomas Hertl's contract, I'll give you the breakdown. It's 5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, and then the last 4 years are 3, 3.25, 2.3, 3.75, 3.75. So
Wait, that's base
the
salary though. That's not total salary.
the AAV is 8 mil, but
No, but his total salaries getting paid those years are 6.15. Those last years.
just about. But essentially, though, because they front loaded it, so then if Tomas Hertl gets injured in the next couple of years, his contract's easier to get rid of. If for some reason he wants out, or we're just not in contention, so it works in the context because right now we want to get rid of the Burns, Carlson, and Vlasic contracts They're just going to run their course while we're in this rebuild. So then if we're in contention in a couple of years from now, we'll have the ability to sign bigger names and sign rentals because the base salary or the salaries of these players they're just so low. And then if Eklund does really well and we need to sign him to an 8x8, or if Weisblatt's really progressed and we need to sign him, we'll have the cap space to do it in the future.
So I get what you're saying, and I like your idea better than what the Sharks officially said and what their GM said. Because you said they signed this deal now, and I do agree with you. It's a good contract in the sense of the way it's structured. I still think the AAV is an overpayment for me because I don't like his numbers for what he provides. I don't think he gets an 8, but anyway, that's just my opinion on it. But I do agree with you though. The structuring is well done. Like it drops down to 6.15 base salary the last 2 years and 6.7 or something the year before that. So the last 3 years are all below 7 million and around 6 something. So that's good for teams that would, let's say when the Sharks need to get that contract out of their hands, it's easier for other teams to take it on because it's less money than what's on the books, especially if they were to trade it after the July 1st signing bonus kicks in. So then that base salary or total salary is even lower. But they said this is a win now deal. The San Jose Sharks aren't winning now.
They're on the playoffs.
They were struggling with this exact team they had, with guys who are still not they're like Carlson and Burns are still getting worse. But they're not going to get better than they are right now. So how is this a win now contract? You sign Hertl, yeah, he stays. He's not going to get better either. He's 28. He's in his prime. This is not a win now. This is a we're going to be mediocre and hope that our division sucks next year. We're going to make the playoffs. That's all it is.
What I see the Sharks doing is cycling out the players that aren't quite suitable for the future. So I don't see us sticking with Cogliano for a long time. I don't see us sticking with Benino for a long time. Nieto's probably going to be gone. Barabanov we're moving. I want to see Barabanov moved. Because at the heart of the team, you've got Aiden Hill, and I think Reimer's going to get moved. The core is Aiden Hill.
You want to run with Aiden Hill, though?
Reimer's way better than Aiden Hill.
No, but I like Gaudreau. I like Gaudreau coming up.
Okay.
So, I see the core is Couture-Meyer, Timo, and then defense, it's Burns, Carlson, and then
Vlasic.
I guess Hill. Vlasic's a big part of.
He's gonna be there.
He's a big part of.
No faith in this team. No faith. I'm sorry. No faith in this team, man.
I see what you're saying, though.
I know what you're saying, but
you do have your core forward, your core defenseman, and you have goalies coming up from the prospect pool, right? That's what you're saying.
I like what I'm seeing from Merkley. And Merkley's been he's only played 23 games and he's had 3 points, but he's doing really well. In the AHL, he's played 28 games, 1 goal, 17 assists for 18 points. And as a defenseman, you don't generally see you're not going to see the big numbers coming out of him. But we do have some prospects on the rise. Brandon Coe's been tearing it up in the OHL. He's the leading scorer. He had 76 points in 60 games. Right now he's with the CUDA, and he's got 18 points in. Nope, this is Ryan Merkley. That's Ryan Merkley. I apologize. Brandon Coe has 83 points in 52 games.
In the WHL.
In the OHL.
Right. In the CHL. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wait, in the AHL, this guy's a star, but okay, no. It's in the minors. Okay.
So we've got young people coming up. Ozzy Weisblatt's 41 points in 43 games. That looks good. And the Prince Albert Raiders aren't a fantastic team here. So I know Brent Burns and Carlson are getting older. That's fine. We don't need them to play like what their contracts warranted them. What I think what the Sharks want to do is, as long as they're producing, it's fine, because Carlson and Burns are still producing. Vlasic's still having trouble right now. We're not quite getting the value from it, but I could see the addition of Merkley or one of these younger guys like Knizov or even Radim Šimek from time to time take the load off Vlasic, because we don't need him to be what he was. We just need to get something for what he is.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we move on to another topic, I just want to read off Tomas Hertl's stats going into the contract. Okay. So 2017-18 is a little far back, so I'll do 2018-19 to start. So 74 points in 77 games, very impressive. 1920, 36 and 48, a -18, not so good. 2020, 2021, 43 and 50, back up to where he's expected. Only a +1, but once again, not a superstar team. And then this year, right now, he has 48 points, although 25 goals, so he's on a good pace for goals in 59 games. So he's not on a point per game pace. He's probably on a pace for about 60, high 60s in terms of points, I'd say, and a -8. So I understand why they gave him the 8x8, because they also wanted to keep him, and he was also interested in leaving too. So he wanted to stay, but he also could have left. Like, he seemed happy either way. So I think they overpaid slightly to get him to stay. It's not a bad contract. I just think it's a slight overpayment. Like, I think I'd rather him around 7.
Yeah,
that make
but then
sense?
if you look at his playoff performance, he performs in the playoffs.
When was the last time they went to the playoffs?
18-19. So
That's a while ago. That's a while ago, man. The Canadians were good back then too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but in 2015-16, in 20 games, he had 11 points, 6 goals. In 2017-18, 9 points in 10 games. And in 18-19, he had 15 points in 19 games. So
with 10 goals.
With 10 goals.
Which is impressive.
So he's performed really well in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I think
he's an okay performer in the playoffs. He has 42 points in 62 games. Like, that's okay. That's solid. Really good. But 24 goals. That's impressive. The goals is impressive.
I think that's also what some people get on Logan Couture on a little bit too, because I feel like the Sharks they're good regular season teams, but then they always just turn it up in the playoffs.
I feel like they're more. They used to be really good regular season teams when Thornton and Marlowe were around. Like, I feel like they were always like the President's Trophy team or around the President's Trophy, and then they'd always choke in the playoffs. There's always something that happens in the playoffs, and they'd always lose. You know what I mean? Like, they're always one of the favorites to win, but then something would go wrong. Like, they're just that team that just, like, they're like the other guys in like the Mighty Ducks. Like, they're a really good team, but they just kept getting beat by some random story, like the reverse sweep by LA, or the Vegas Golden Knights beat them by scoring 4 goals like late in the game or something. Or no, they came back. Never mind, that was them.
They came back,
but then they lose the next series, right? Or they lose the series after that.
No, they beat Colorado. They lost to St. Louis, but
right, exactly. But they're always like there, like just there, and that happens, unfortunately. But I think it's time for them to move on, because they did have a long time of success in the 2010s. Like, they were always a team that if I was like, oh damn, they're playing the Sharks tonight, damn, the Habs are going to lose that, because they're a scary team to play against. But now a lot of their guys have moved on or are older. Like, I think it's time to move on. Like, they just basically redid what they did with Couture. They just redid.
I think that's the plan, though. I think that's the plan, though. And
are you sure?
They are going. Yeah. Well, they're going in a younger direction right now. They just can't bring up. They're not going to bring up all these young guys right now, because
why not?
They might rush. Because I reckon
Well, no,
they
no, not
might
like Brendan
rush.
Coe and Eklund. That'd be too fast. But there's other guys they can bring in, like Ryan Merck. Like, just let them make the mistakes. Like, just bring in younger guys.
Yeah, and I think what they might do is they might look for trades now. They might move Middleton if they can get something for Cogliano. That'd be good. But we have people in our prospect pool. Even Thomas Bordalo right now, he was a steal in the second round a couple of years back. He's on that Michigan team tearing it up with Powers, and I don't even know. That whole team is just stacked. Hughes. So I think right now you have to let these younger or these older contracts run out, because Barabanov isn't a long term solution. Neither is Reimer, Reimer or
like
some of these.
I'm looking
like
at your
Middleton.
expiring deals. The Sharks should be somewhat busy on deadline day. Like, look to move. Bonino expires next year, but he's UFA next year at a low cap it. Look to move Bonino. Try to move Cogliano this year. Barabanov this year as a rental. Like, those are two rentals teams could acquire for lower picks. Move on from Magna. Move on from Jacob Middleton, because there seems to be interest. And if he gets you a second round pick, like, just to give you an idea, like, Jacob Middleton's 26. He's a very low cap hit. He's a former 7th round draft pick by the LA Kings. They acquired him just by signing him. You're getting a second round pick out of thin air, just like that. You sign this guy for nothing, right? You just acquired him from free agency, and then you trade him for a second. Like, that's a net gain, no matter how you look at it. And a second round pick's still good. So I'd move on from him too.
Yeah.
Throw in maybe James Reimer still has another year left. I'd hold on to him. Same with Aiden Hill. But maybe Zach Sawchenko. Like, is he a guy
Sawchenko's been playing fairly well. I'd keep him. I'd keep him if Gaudreau doesn't pan out. But
those are guys right there you can move for and just fill in your draft lot, like fill in your draft pool. Because right now you guys have a first, you don't have a second, you have a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and 3 sevenths. Like, if I were you, I'd want to fill in. Add some filling to that, get an extra second and get a second, throw some thirds and fourths in there, even a fifth. Like, just having more picks would be nice for a team that's not in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it makes sense because that's kind of the plan right now. But I don't know. We just finished signing Hertl, so they might be. Because we still have, another couple days? Because the trade deadline's the 21st, right?
Yeah, next Monday.
Yeah. We still have a couple days, and we could be working out deals to get something done.
It just seems like it's been very quiet in San Jose, other than the Hertl. It's been so quiet. I think now that Hertl's signed and out of the way, I think we'll start hearing more noise about the rest of the guys.
Yeah. And we'll see. We'll see. Because the Sharks, generally, they do make deadline deals. They've made some really good deadline deals in the past, and we might see something. And just what Cheese was had to say, Berta, why is all your laundry on your floor?
I don't think you guys saw it, man. My sister walked in I did my laundry this morning. I put it in the dryer. And then I don't know why they put it in my room. I was going to go get it right after the podcast, but my sister just came through and she just dropped it here. I'm like, well, it's like too far away for me to just sit here and move it as well. It's like pretty far away, but it's inside.
Are we going to get a laundry folding stream pretty soon?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right. I think this will be our last topic for today. The Winnipeg Jets. Unless we can throw something else in there after, but the Winnipeg Jets. We were being asked to talk about them. I saw McSawtrap talking about them. I think Naruto, Patrap, and I believe it was Cheese Wizard brought it up as well. So they brought up Christian Vesalainen. So can we talk about Christian Vesalainen? He has 3 points in 52 games. Former first-round pick, 22 years old. What are they doing with him? And if you remember, Paul Maurice came out in a lot of statements every year, be like, "Oh, Vesalainen has the best shot on the team. Best shot on the team. Really good player." He's 3 goals. 3 points. Not 3 goals, 3 points. What's going on with Vesalainen? Why is he not making the progress? He was always like medium elite in NHL 21, 20. He was always medium elite because scouts have always valued him really highly. And then Mixotchap also says, or no, was it Mixotchap? No, it was Cheese Whiz says, Jets are bad for letting players sit in the box rather than letting them play and develop in the AHL. So what do you guys think about the Jets, their development system, kind of like Montreal's, where it's just non-existent? And what do you think they do? Because they're slowly fighting their way for a playoff spot right now. Like they're outside, but they're clawing and they're clawing by tooth and nail here to force themselves into a wild card position here. Let me pull it up for you guys real quick. The wild card position for the NHL. If you look, the Jets in the West are right behind the Canucks. Point totals are 1 point back of the Canucks with the same amount of games played. So the Jets, if you're talking about the Canucks being right, like poised for a cup run, or not a cup run, but a playoff spot, the Jets are equally involved in that area, right? Obviously, the Canucks are way hotter right now. But what do you guys think of the Jets? What should they do?
Get good.
Get good. Yeah. I don't know. Their forward core is fine. Well, the original thing though that we're talking about was Vesalainen. So before I go into what the Jets should do, well, I can just quickly say they just got to fix their defense. Is like it's okay, but if they want to be a better team and be a playoff team, they gotta just get actual solid defensemen. Like Hellebuck if Hellebuck is supported better, they will just be they'll be a playoff team. That's all, right? And just team overall defense has to be better. That's about it. That's what I see. However, Vesalainen, I never understood this thing. Like I always heard about him. He sounded like the boogeyman the way they talked about him. Even in any league that he scored, every single league he played in, man, he was not a goal scorer. Like he just wasn't. Like I don't know where this thing came. You can have the best shot, that's fine. Martin Frk was also like sought after as one of the best shots in the NHL because he had like 4 or 5 games where he scored on the point, like with his slap shot. But every league, like I'll go through it right now, okay? So 2 goals on Winnipeg, 4 goals on HPK. I don't even know what that is. Manitoba Moose, 1 goal. 2018, he played, or sorry, for the U20 in Finland, he got 1 goal. U18 fair. You got 6 goals in 7 games, but that was back in 2016-17. He played in the SHL, scored 1 goal both years, and it's just like, where is this? Like, where are people talking about? Like, why? Like, I get he's a good shot, but where is he a goal scorer? Like, his whole career from like 2013 to like now, it's like as a
goals.
kid, dude, I can really count it, man. Like it's so
like
little.
Goals. I'm calling 12. Count it up. I'm calling 12.
No, it's not 12 since then, but like okay,
20
maybe
then.
since like 2016. I'll count from 2016. Yes, 6, 7, 10, 2, 6, 4, 12, 1, 4, 2, 1. Like what the hell is what is this? Like I don't know where this. I don't know, man.
I think they saw that World Junior tournament, the U18, the U20 or U18, whichever one it was, where he played for Finland, had 6 goals in 7 games. Yeah. A lot of scouts tend to overvalue that game or that tournament, because you'll see a kid who's like super highly touted, then has like an average tournament, then all of a sudden he drops out of the first round, gets taken in the second round, comes up to the NHL and is really good again. Or comes back the next year and is really good again. I was like, okay, just because they didn't have a great tournament at the U18s at the World Junior Championship doesn't mean they're no longer a good player. And a lot of times you'll see a guy who wins MVP at that tournament not even like be that highly touted of a prospect, but then because he wins that league MVP or the tournament MVP, gets overvalued, gets drafted really high, and then is called a bust when he doesn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that. Yeah. That's what it seems like it is for Vesalainen right now. He got overvalued from that tournament where he got 6 goals in 7 games. And everyone thinks he's going to be a superstar goal scorer. I don't think he is, though. Unfortunately. Obviously, I'm rooting for the kid, but at this point in his career, I just don't see it.
Yeah, but like the thing is like at that point though, like I actually did see one thing I missed. He scored 15 goals in 37 for Frolunda HC Junior 20. That was back in 2015 though, so 7 years ago. And yeah, but anyway, but when you're like this, he's still young, right? So the thing is if he wants, he's in the NHL, right? He has an opportunity to still play in the NHL. What you gotta do as a player is know what you are, know what your role can be, and be the best that you can be at that role, right? Know what your strengths can be and get better at those strengths. Just absolutely perfect them. So then that way, that's how you stay in the NHL, and that's how these players that are becoming older and they lose some aspect in their game, they stay good because they perfect other parts of their game where they know is that they're going to be lacking one, so they'll compensate for another thing.
Right.
So yeah, I mean he's 22 years old. I'm sure he can still be in the league for a long time. He might not be like their if they had thought he'd be a I don't know 30 to 40 goal guy. That might not be his future, but he can still definitely get. He can still definitely be in the NHL for different reasons, right? So
Yeah, and I'm
he's just got to figure
seeing.
that out.
Yeah, and I'm seeing people say in chat that he's playing fourth line minutes as a prospect. He's never going to really develop if you're playing just fourth line minutes every night. If you have top six
Mm.
skill, it's kind of like Caulfield. You got sent to the fourth line forever under Ducharme, and guess what? He had one goal. Then all of a sudden he gets power play minutes because that's what the type of player he
Mhm.
is. He's not a fourth line guy. He's a power play specialist slash really good offensive dynamic player. Throws him out there with another dynamic player in Suzuki, gives him some power play time. Oh my god, all of a sudden he scores goals he's at a 104
Mm.
point pace. What is going on? What's going on? Guys, play the players the way they're meant to be played. It's that simple. You can't
I think
you can't jam a freaking square head into a round hole. It doesn't work. You know what I mean? It
I
just
think the
doesn't work.
problem with Winnipeg is they have no chance to rebuild, like do a proper rebuild right now because they're in such a bad cap crunch. Blake Wheeler makes 8 mil for the next 3 years, and that's
It's
like
tough, but
we.
he's good though still, man. But like you're right, like they are in a cap crunch, but I wouldn't blame those guys. Like it's hard to rebuild if you have like what you want in a team. You want a number one
Mhm.
center. They have Scheifele. You want a really good number two center. You have Dubois. Dubois has a lot of potential being like one of the top second centers in the
Mhm.
league. Wheeler's still good. Connor is absolutely amazing. So I wouldn't even want to rebuild if I had that core. Um, I think they're missing like they have a good goalie. They're missing like their number one D men, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a big thing. And I just think their defense needs to be rounded out much better than it is right now. Like if I was to pull up their defense, they got Morrissey. Okay, Nate
I
Schmidt's their
like
second
Morrissey.
hit. Yeah, Nate Schmidt's their highest paid defenseman, and I mean, he's good, but he can't be your guy that's on the top pairing, right? Like he's
Yeah,
good in a lower role.
and I
Uh,
think yeah,
yeah, go on.
and I think like I always say this, but we just need to be a little bit more patient.
Hmm.
I don't think Vesalainen might be the guy anymore. I like Nathan Smith in their prospect pool. I like Nikita Chibrikov. I like him too.
Hmm.
Um, and then I
Cole
could see them
Perfetti.
calling, yeah, Cole Perfetti.
Perfetti,
He's
yeah.
injured right now. Chaz Lucius has 19 points in 24
He's
games.
looking really good.
I like. I think we just need to wait. Heinola too. I think Heinola
Yeah,
might be the person that gets
they
called
have
up.
a good prospect pool, so like
Hmm.
they don't have to worry
I
about
think
too much.
I think the problem is we're looking at Vesalainen like because he was drafted in the first round means he's got to be the person to save Winnipeg, but um I don't think that's the case anymore. Because there are times where you pick a first rounder and it just doesn't pan out. It happens. You're drafting kids when they're like 18, 19, so and even younger. But um if Vesalainen doesn't work out, call up Smith, call up I'm gonna check their depth. Call up Chibrikov, call up Pinola, call up Lucius, call up Perfetti, because they have something. They have something. And worst comes to worst, I know their defense isn't championship
They're
defense.
not even that bad though.
They're not bad. They're not
I
bad.
just
It's
looked at
just
their decor. It's
yeah.
really not that bad. They have Morrissey, Schmidt, Keonk, Dylan, DeMello, Stanley, and Heinola. Like, that's not even that bad.
But
It's not
Mike, you gotta
bad.
look at it, and I would say like out of all those guys, don't they mostly just seem like they're second pairing guys, which is
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
but you're missing something there.
Exactly. So hopefully Heinola pans out into a first pairing D-man. But like everybody, I think they're not as bad as we make them seem, because they're only 2 points out from Vegas.
Yeah, they're not far out at all. So like,
Yeah.
they could
I-
still technically
I-
make it.
But if you're Winnipeg though, do you look at your UFAs coming up? Do you trade Stasny? Do you trade Andrew Kopp? Do you trade say Adam Brooks or yeah, I guess those are the three on offense. Like, do you trade those guys out and see what you can get for them? Because I mean, if the risk is you're not gonna make the playoffs anyway, you might as well try to get as many assets as you can. They have a
Right.
similar problem to San Jose where they have their first, that's great, but they don't have they don't have their second, they don't have a fourth, they have another team's third, and their fifth, sixth, and seventh.
Yeah,
I think-
well, that's why Cops like showing up in rumors, right? So
Yeah.
I think getting rid of Cop is good because you'll probably get a lot of value for him. And even Stastny, man, like Stastny actually has
Yeah.
been putting up decent numbers.
He goes, honestly, just because of his name, he should go for a first or a second and a prospect. Just because of his name, right? It's Paul
Right.
Stastny.
Yeah.
So it's that simple.
Yeah, I think they should go through the draft, or because the problem is they just can't sign anybody of like any big names right now because they're in such a big cap crunch. And like I know Blake Wheeler's been playing; he's been playing well, 45 games in 45 points in 47 games. That's really good, but like that's not warranting 8 mil right now. That's especially at 35.
Yeah.
So I think you have to call up rookies, call up those making league minimum in order to boost your top six and your overall forward score and your defense, because it's really hard to find an elite level defenseman or even a second pair defenseman for like pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. And another issue with their team I find is their best players don't play well on their own end. Scheifele, Wheeler, Kyle Connor. Those are three really good forwards that do not know how to play on their own end. They have terrible defensive metrics. They're among the league worst every year. All three of them. It's not like, let's say for example, Nylander has bad defensive metrics, for example. I don't know if he does or not. I'm just bringing this up as an example. But Matthews, Marner, and Tavares all have pretty good defensive metrics. It's not all four of them, the big four, core four, whatever you want to call them, are all bad defensively. Or another team like Boston, let's say, for example, if Pasternak had bad defensive metrics, well, Marchand doesn't, Bergeron doesn't, and Hall, or I guess it would be Hall, and Pasternak doesn't, right? Not all four of their best forwards have bad offensive metrics. You look at the Jets, Connor, Wheeler, and Scheifele. All three of them, terrible defensive metrics. Your captain and your assistant captain are bad defensively. What kind of example are you setting for the rest of your team? Then you throw in, obviously, Ehlers has really good metrics. I love Ehlers. Kopp has good metrics. You're going to have a hard time replacing him. He's a good player. He's very underrated. And then Pierre Dubois, like, I don't know how to feel about him. I haven't really looked into his metrics too much, but I have a feeling he's more of the same thing as Scheifele. He's just another Scheifele almost, in the sense that I don't know how good he is defensively either. And that's a big reason as to why they're not that great. Like, they have such a good core, such a good team together, but their problem is they don't know how to play in their own end. They just don't.
Well, the problem is you can be bad defensively, but they're not elite on either side. They're very much in the middle in general. Like, sometimes a bad team can compensate defensive metrics by being a strong scorer, by being strong scorers, but Winnipeg Florida. Winnipeg is 15th in goals per game at 3.8. They're 21st, or sorry, they're 13th at 21% on the power play. 18th GAA at 305 and 76.5% on the PK.
Which is not
And
good.
with that's mediocre. Respect.
Yeah, but if you want to be a playoff team, it's not good. Not good enough.
Right. Well, you have to be either good at one thing or good at you should be good at one thing or the other. And especially because you've got Hellebuck between your pipes, one of those should have gone down. But yeah, you've got to. I don't know. Do you think they just need more time because they're gelling still after Paul Maurice left?
I don't think so. Paul Maurice left.
About a long
They need a new voice.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get a new coach in there. As much as like Adam Lowry's dad is the coach right now. I don't know his first name, but Lowry is the coach. That's not a new voice. He's been there for a long time.
Right.
That locker room's been the same for years, and it's notorious for having issues in the sense that unless you fit in the exact persona that they want, that they already have, you're not going to be welcome. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
Lane was clearly not welcome in that locker room from the very beginning. He was
playing too much Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. Just because he has one thing that he does differently. Like he's younger and he plays video games, but like that's not a reason to not want a guy in your locker room. So I think that's a major issue as well, is that their locker room isn't exactly inviting. That's the rumors going around. I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the rumors that are going around, is their locker room is not exactly the most inviting locker room in the NHL. And it hasn't been for a long time. Because they've had the same coach for years, and Paul Maurice is a player's coach. Wheeler, Scheifele, they all like their certain type of player. And they like the certain type of guy in the room. They've been there forever, and it's just the way it is. And until that changes, which it can't under this core, I don't see the Jets being a very serious contender for a long time. I just don't. The game's changed, and they don't have the same decor of Trouba, Myers, Bufflin, on and on and on and on. Chiarot even was in there at one point. Like, they don't have the same pedigree they used to on defense. They really don't. And it shows, because the defense used to make up for their terrible defensive metrics off of their forwards. But now they don't have that same decor. Like, they have a decent defense core. Like, I look at that team, I'm like, yeah, that should be a winning team. But their forwards are so bad in their own end that their defensemen are screwed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Connor Hellebuck, I think, is just tired. To be honest with you, I think he's worn out.
Yeah.
And it all started because Dustin Bufflin threw Evander Kane's tracksuit in the shower.
I mean, that's not a nice thing to do to begin with, but still.
So that's what started it.
I wouldn't say that's what started it. There's definitely something has to get you to have to, like, something has to happen for you to want to do that to someone, because that's a pretty shitty thing to do. But
Evander Kane did nothing wrong.
Oh, I'm not going there. Don't even get me started.
That was a joke.
I do want to address something in chat though. I saw some chatters saying that like Petrop kind of agreed with us in the sense that they should trade their UFAs like Stasny and Lowry, not Lowry, but Kopp, because the race is super tight to make it into the playoffs as it is. And if you squeak into the second wild card, you're getting Colorado. Like, I'm sorry, but the Jets, if you get swept by Montreal last year, you're not beating Colorado. You're going to lose in 3. You're going to lose in 2 to Colorado, if that's even possible. Because if you get swept by Montreal, there's no chance you beat the Colorado Avalanche. So, I mean, there's a reason the games are played. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't see the Jets core right now doing much until they're...
No.
Maybe a new coach comes in and he revitalizes the team and he gets Scheifele and Wheeler to step it up defensively even a little bit. Because like I'm all for not forcing players into a role they're not suited for. But there's a difference between being like decent defensively and actually like still trying in your own end and just not caring. And it looks like Scheifele and Wheeler just don't care about their own end. Like their back checks are the laziest I've ever seen. The only time I've ever seen Scheifele back check is wanting to kill Jake Evans. And then that's what got him out of the series. That's the only time I've ever seen Mark Scheifele back check. So I don't know, guys. I don't know. And then, fun fact, McSawtrap here says that Ben Chiarot was actually drafted by the Atlanta Thrashers. Bit of a fun fact. He's one of the few players remaining that were actually drafted by that team, still active. Was Evander Kane drafted by them too? No, I think he was.
Yes, he
too.
was.
So him and
He
Evander
fought
Kane are
Matt
one of
Cook.
two of the few players remaining from the Thrashers days. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Atlanta Thrashers.
Hey, did
Got
you
my
know?
Thrashers hat handy right here. Look at that beauty.
Did you know a Thrashers legend has the most playoff games played in all time?
Who?
You guys want to take a guess?
Timo Solani?
He's one of their only Hall of Famers too. I think there's two, and he's one of them.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Chris Chelios.
Yeah,
No
nice. That
way he's one of their Hall of Famers.
was-
Like they retired. He's a Hall of
No.
Famer from Detroit.
no.
He's a Hall of Famer in general. But
Yes,
the
exactly.
Thrashers only have two Hall of Famers, and it's him and Hossa.
Oh yeah, I forgot Hossa played there.
The guy who had an allergic reaction after playing in the league for 20 years.
Dude, although Atlanta's a good market though. That's the problem. Like it's actually a good market.
Should we do that? Should we start? Let's do it. 32 or 33rd team draft. We're bringing back the Thrashers.
That could be our stream franchise mod. I'm down with that. Yo, Chad, are you guys down with a Thrashers fantasy draft or expansion draft, I should say, as a fan connection podcast franchise mode? I'd be down with that during the off season.
I'd be down.
Do you guys want to know you guys' predictions from last stream for the games?
Who won
before we do
yesterday?
it?
Not really, because a lot of mine were jokes.
Oh,
but let's go.
my-
Oh,
Montigo screwed me.
interesting. Okay, so there was 11 picks for Tuesday. Today there is 10 games. Yeah, there's 10 games today. There was 11 last time. So Mike went 7 for 11.
Woo woo!
Ponch went 8 for 11.
Oh fuck! I lost.
McSawtrap went 8 for 11 as well, and I went 7 for 11.
Oh, thank God, we tied. I was gonna say
Trap.
if everyone went 8 for 11.
Trap.
All right, we need a tiebreaker. Who had the least amount of overtime wins / shootout wins? Is
Oh,
that possible?
Okay, I would have to go back and look.
Oh, don't bother.
But
No, don't
yeah,
bother.
okay. We'll just
McSawtrap
continue on.
retired.
We'll continue on, right? This is the
We're
overall
on the
season.
W's.
So let's do today's, all right? So Stars, Canadians.
Habs.
Okay, let me write down Mike's. Okay. You say Habs? Okay.
Jake
Predators,
Allen's playing
Flyers.
tonight.
Predator, Flyers.
Predators. Don't even.
Wait,
know.
you
Predators.
should ask us at the same time, so then you don't have to rewrite more than
Okay.
once.
Okay, let me do that then.
And ask yourself.
And Chad, if you want to participate in this, send just a list of the teams you pick for each matchup to the Discord, and we'll make sure to pin it for you.
Yeah, okay. So Punch for Stars and Habs.
Got Stars. Let's go, the Otter.
I also have Stars.
Jake Allen's back, guys. Come on. What is this?
And then
Have you not heard of the Otter?
I
Predators.
have, and I've heard of a person named Cole Caulfield. So,
Yeah.
And
Right.
yes, there is a channel Discord. I cannot send the link because I'm
I'll send
streaming
it.
the thing. But if someone wants to send the link, that'd be super
I
helpful. I'm gonna add a exclamation mark Discord soon.
Anyway, all right. Yeah. So Predators, Flyers. I have Preds. Punch.
I've got the Preds.
Yeah.
Okay, we all got Preds.
That's an easy pick.
Okay, and then next we got Capitals and Jackets.
I'm gonna risk it with the Jackets here. I'm feeling Line and Domi. I'm feeling Line and Domi tonight.
I'm
And
also
did I
going
not
Jackets.
call Shalgren, by the way?
You did. You did.
I called
Actually, it's pretty
Shalgren.
funny. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the great eights. Ovechkin.
Nice.
Abby
Islanders,
Ovi gets
Rangers.
a hat trick, but still loses.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. He's chasing the record at this point.
Exactly.
Islanders, Rangers.
Isles, baby.
Isles.
What?
I also have Isles.
What? I've got the Rangers.
Okay.
Isles, baby. It's fire and water. Water wins, baby. Let's go.
Hurricanes and Leafs potential playoff matchup.
Hurricanes. Don't even.
Canes.
Matthews isn't even playing it, so
I am going to say Leafs.
Because you're a fan?
No,
Leafs fan. We found him. Sneaky.
I just think they're gonna do it somehow.
Let's go.
Chalgren.
Freddie Anderson revenge game.
Penguins Blues.
That's a tough one. I'm gonna go Blues.
I'm also going
I
Blues.
can't bet against Crosby. I'm gonna go Penguins.
Okay. Pens, Blues, and Punch.
Let's go Blues.
Blues. Cool. Okay. Sabres and Oilers.
Sabres.
Yep.
I'm
also
gonna
got
go
Sabres.
Oilers.
We got the Sabres.
Mike, you know it almost came back to bite you last time when you got mad at us for picking the Red Wings over the Oilers. I don't know if you saw that game.
I didn't see it. Was it bad?
Okay, the Oilers were up 3-0 in the first
Blew
first
lead,
like
didn't
5
they?
minutes. And yeah, it was 4-1, and then they blew the league, and it ended up being like a 7-5 win or something like that.
Oh Jesus! Classic
Yeah.
Oilers, man.
Okay, Mike, you have the Oilers, right?
Yeah. Screw
Okay,
it.
okay. Canucks, Red Wings.
Canucks. I think I'd be down to bet on the Wings right now. They've been really bad.
Punch.
Bertuzzi's not in, and you're on my fantasy team.
Oh, I also
But
have Canucks, by the way.
you know what? Give me my charity tax break. I'm going Canucks.
Okay.
Oh, and legend Christian Dvorak makes his return tonight too.
Nice.
So for those who bet against the Habs,
Almost done. Sharks and Kings. Battle of LA.
Kings.
Sharks.
Did I just say Battle of LA?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Fine with me.
that's tough.
Battle of California.
One of the battles of California, of the multiple battles for California. There's so many
Exactly.
teams in California. For a Sunshine State, there's a lot of teams in California.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed you guys' picks though when I said that.
LA.
LA, okay. I'm going to say the Sharks because Hertl just signed his contract, so I'm gonna be like he's gonna get a
Hertl's
couple of
financially
plays.
secure.
Yeah.
He's gonna play like he's financially secure.
Oh, okay. All right.
So worse.
So Ponch, did you pick an LA or Sharks?
I've got your San Jose Sharks.
Okay. Last one, Panthers and Vegas.
Panthers, don't even. I'm sorry, Vegas. Better luck next time, man. They're gonna destroy Louis Domingue. It's not even fair.
I got Panthers as well.
I've got Panthers and a Joe Thornton hat trick.
Nice.
Actually, he's gonna score 4 and get the rooster trick.
Nice.
You
Okay,
guys
that's
know
all the
that
games.
story?
Yeah, I think you told it. Yeah. Oh wait, no,
Mike,
you did not tell that one.
Do you guys know the rooster trick, like inside joke with Sharks fans?
No.
No.
Okay. So it was when Tomas Hertl scored 4 against the Rangers. And so I think Joe Thornton did this to take some heat off Tomas Hertl because he was like 19 at the time and wasn't great at interviews. And then Joe Thornton goes, "Yeah, if I had 4 goals, I'd take out my rooster and I'd be stroking it."
I remember that now, actually. I love Joe Thornton, man. He's always a good interview. Good personality.
It's
too.
just
He just
up
loves
for
the
another
game.
word, but yeah. Chat, you guys can figure that out.
Honestly, I feel like Joe Thornton just never grew up, and I love it.
Oh, yeah. Love Joe Thornton.
Well, I think that's going to do it for today's podcast. We appreciate everyone for stopping by. If you want to join in on the matchup fun where we each pick a matchup, or we pick our winner for each matchup on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you want to join in on that fun, join our Discord, the Fan Connection Discord. We will be posting the link. The link is in my description in the panels, but we also post the link in the chat, and we will be adding an easier way to join the Discord in the future. We'll be posting on Twitter and TikTok as well. So let us know what you think or who you think will be the matchup winners. And we announce the winner every Tuesday and Thursday from the previous matchup. So obviously next Tuesday, we will be talking about who won today's matchup. Hopefully it'll be me this time. It took a bit of an L. Although 7 for 11 is not that bad on a 50-50 chance. So
We all did pretty good. Yeah.
We all did pretty well, actually. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
We clearly all know what we're talking about. But if you want to listen to the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, all as The Fan Connection. You can, just by looking that up, you should be able to find us. And you can also find us on Twitch at SomeLazyGuy09. I will be hosting the podcast on my channel there. And feel free to check out Birdman and Punch_YYC. Show them some love. They stream as well on Twitch. We appreciate you, everybody, for stopping by. We love your support. We love your feedback. McSawtrap, Cheese Whiz. We saw Patrap in here. We had Spider from Naruto. I'm trying not to forget anybody. We had a Baby Bagel at one point, Canadian 22, and the list goes on and on. So thank you, everyone, for swinging by, asking any questions that you had. Yeah, check out our Anchor link as well. It gives you the link to everything. And we'll see you all again soon.